Hello, dear ones. Something that I think is worth repeating over and over many, many times for all of us is the practice of not engaging in the story. And I'll explain a little more about that. If you have not practiced the, the art of non-reaction, it's we're so used to throwing out these emotions that are not integrated or healed or included yet. They run the show inside, and there is always a story around it. And what you'll notice is that when you have emotions and when you talk about it, when you talk about what happened, maybe something that happened a long time ago, or maybe something that happened an hour ago that triggered something in you, you'll notice that when you talk about it, most people, is that there's all this emotional energy, this emotional expression, and then there's this and this, and there's all this energy that it's kind of like it wants an expression. It's looking for some kind of a healing or completion or inclusion. And rightly so, it needs that. But I think what is often misunderstood, if you haven't fully practiced that, that as long as you let those unhealed or unintegrated or unheard, unseen emotions, unfelt emotions in a different way than just expressing it, they are feeding the story about what happened or didn't happen. And then the story is fired up by the emotions, and it's kind of a feedback. So you're in this emotional story feedback loop, hoping for a solution, a resolution, hoping for completion and peace. And it doesn't work that way. And it is sad because nobody really understands, and nobody, that's not true. Most people don't really understand that what they are doing is done unconsciously, and it's in the hopes that they're going to feel better. Venting our emotions that may feel better for a little while, for sure, because it's building up, and we don't know what to do with it, so we just spew it out. That's what you see happening in the world. This is the matrix, at its height. So when you realize that by feeding the story with these emotions that want some kind of a resolution, that is not helping, then we need to look for a different way. And learning to be present with our emotions, that is very, very different than just spewing them out. It's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to make you feel better unless you like that emotional expression. You might be feeding on it because you have been doing it for so long, and somehow, we feel often empowered by it when we can rah, rah, rah. There is a sense of power in that, but it is not a real power. It's not your true power. It's just an emotion that feels it gets stronger by doing it, but it's not going to help it in the long run. I have shared a number of videos about the core wound. The link will be up here. And how to be present with these feelings without getting lost in the story, without feeding the story, without engaging in the story. And that is hard. That's not something We learn overnight because the story, that's what happened, and that's what engages these emotions. So somehow we need to separate them. We probably can't stop the story of whatever happened. That happened. But we can learn to be present with the impact that it had. And it's the impact that is looking for a solution. So if there's something, I mean, we can't do a deep dive here just in short video. It really is something that you want to find somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you trust, that you can work with these parts inside so you can learn how to do it eventually on your own. But in the beginning, many times if you do it without good guidance, you might just re-traumatize yourself because the emotions have their own life and they're hurting. They need a really soft, loving, safe place to be held in. And as long as we are lost in this emotional turmoil, we do not have what it takes to do that on our own. So please reach out. Whether you want to reach out to me, you can set up a time for a self-discovery session. Or, like I always say, if you have somebody that you already feel safe with, reach out to them, and so you can learn how to actually come to a place of resolution inside so that you don't have to keep throwing it out there and keep feeding the story. It's really is like a self-perpetuating story that will just keep on going. And I want to at least support anybody who wants to find peace inside. And then you will simply not feel the need to go and project it out like most people do. So if there is any kind of really big emotion that you're in right now, I would say reach out and get some help. It might be a little helpful just to follow some of my videos or some of the steps that I might offer. But in the long run, there's so many things, there's so many patterns and behaviors that we do and express that we are not aware of. And then when you have an extra pair of eyes that can help you see it in a loving, safe, not judgmental way, non-violent way. There's no shame or judgment. There's just like, oh, here is that. Let's see if we can stay present with that. Let's see if we can just feel into it, breathe into it. So that's my invitation just for today. If you're sitting with something big, and your mind just goes, oh, I should have said, and I can't believe they did that, and yada, yada, yada. And this thing is just running crazy. So if you can, take a deep breath in here, into that turmoil that I know a lot of people are feeling right now. And of course, that's why I want to just see if I can just put out just a little suggestion where you might be able to do differently than what you're used to and what most people are used to. So whatever you're sitting with, just pause for a moment and do your best to just take a breath down into the experience of the discomfort. It's as if you're offering this discomfort, a loving hand, an open heart, so that these parts can go, oh, I'm not alone. It feels like it's safe here. I think I'm able to do it because I don't have to figure it out myself. So just that will help. And even if it's your own, your own loving hand or heart, where you just say, let me just sit and breathe into my heart or my belly or whatever it is. And just do that for a little while. Just that. And then you will notice that the story wants to pull you out because that's what stories do, right? That's the mind. That's the matrix mind. And it wants you up here because it needs your emotions to survive. So, in that sense, we're starving the matrix mind, but we're not starving our own experience. We're not bypassing anything. We're actually bringing a loving presence to these parts inside that are desperate, scared, um, pained, whatever it is. And then we just sit and breathe into them with a deep sense of okayness, and allowing, a love. And you will notice when you do that, your nervous system will start softening. And we have to start here. When I talk about, one of my practices for many years is to not react to the outer world without bypassing it. That's so there's a fine art to that, but I have been practicing this for so many years. And every time there was something that I saw out there that happened that would have an impact, I would just pause and be aware of what happened out there, but also be aware of what happened in here. And then I have the choice to stay here with my own experience, breathe into it, allow it to unfold. So it's just an energy that is stuck and that's just spinning around. And by us being present with it starts calming down, it starts slowing down, and then we are more able to be present with it and maybe even listen to it and find out what does it actually need. Maybe it needs to vent. When I see clients in my private practice, there are times where somebody just needs to vent or to scream or to express because it's so intense inside. And there has to be space for that. Maybe they need to just talk about the story, just like really go over it. But the difference is that we do it in a conscious way. We do it in a mindful way so that we might say something. Well, let's take a minute or two where you just scream or express or go over it and over it and over it, but we do it consciously. So it's not just like unconscious like that. It's like, oh, and then we can find out what is good, what feels good about it, or you can actually really become aware of what this whole system inside, what is it? What does it want? What is it trying to make happen by going over it? And when we do that consciously, you'll notice that there's going to be a lot of good insights and good information in there that you then can take to the next level. So if you are, lost in some deep emotions, maybe because of what's going on in the world, a lot of fear, a lot of anger, do your best to not project it out and do your best to just see if you can breathe into it, maybe for 5 minutes. And it's going to be hard sometimes because the mind is going to, yeah, but and they did this and he said that and she, blah, 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 blah. And it's going to pull you out. It's going to do everything it can because it needs your emotional energy to survive. If that realization, if that's helping you to say, no, I'm not going to feed that anymore, right? Then you take back more of your power and you say, I'm going to stay here now and I'm going to breathe into this and I'm going to allow it to just be whatever it is. And it's going to come up with, maybe past memories, other emotions, fears. It's going to start talking to you. And then we're going to start allowing it and unloading it and expressing it. And then that huge charge that only knew to express it in that way before, that's all it knew because nobody was listening to it. So when you start doing that, the breathing and the listening and the allowing, it's going to come down and you're going to feel a relief because now at least it's not running you anymore. Now you have some tools and some new ways of dealing with it and healing it and growing in it. So that, of course, it's a deep, deep practice. And it's not one you just do once. Maybe a lifetime practice, or at least for some years, depending on, how things are unfolding in the world, because it's going so much faster now than when I started. But I just know that the practice of not reaction, that has served me so well. And it has allowed me to let go of that and go in here instead. And then there's been more and more peace arising and expressing, and my beingness, it's not all gone, but it is what it is until it isn't. So I don't have a story about that it should be gone, because that would be another story, right? That would make you unhappy. So it's just learning to be so present with your present moment inner experience. So you just kind of hold it in this loving space. So the charge can start decharging. It can just start letting go. And then you're going to be left with a lot more power, a lot more wisdom, a lot more inspiration, and a lot more peace. I hope this is inspiring you to maybe take that on as a practice, and feel free to reach out if you need some help with that.